Job interviews are actually very easy once you stop trying to impress the person in front of you. And after helping more than 250 executives land six-figure roles, I've seen this firsthand. Companies don't hire the best candidate, they hire the safest one. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to answer interview questions so hiring you feels like the obvious decision. Companies don't always hire the best person for the job. They hire the person who feels like the least risky decision. And here's why. By the time a company hires someone, they've actually already invested very heavily. Multiple hours of interview rounds, often a recruitment fee north of $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, and then 6 to 12 months of onboarding, training, and ramp time before that person is even fully productive. And they've wasted time, money, and maybe burned internal credibility by backing the wrong person. And then they've got to repeat that entire process again. And that's why a bad hire is often estimated to cost around twice the person's annual salary. So when someone is interviewing you, they're not really asking, who's the most impressive person? They're actually asking, who is the safest hire? And this is where most executives accidentally work against themselves. They think sounding impressive makes them feel safer. So they add lots more details, more context, and more complexity to their work. So it sounds more impressive. But in interviews, that often increases the risk instead of reducing it. So think about it like this. Answers that are hard to summarize feel risky. And that's why trying to impress usually backfires. But there is a simple way to structure interview answers so they feel safe to hire. I call it the RJO Framework. And every strong interview answer should do three things. It should name the risk, it should show your judgment, and it should land on one clear outcome. So let me show you what that actually sounds like. Now imagine you're asked, tell me about a challenging project that you worked on. Now most people would jump straight into the context and they might say something like, the project was really complex. There was lots of stakeholders, tight timelines, multiple systems involved, and I had to manage dependencies across several teams. I used agile methodologies, stakeholder mapping, deep technical reviews to get everyone aligned. There was lots of moving parts, but we delivered successfully. Now that might sound impressive, but there's way too much context. There's no clear decision and there's no obvious priority. It's kind of hard to explain what this person actually did or why hiring them would be the safe bet. Now here's the same experience but answered using the RJO framework. First, the risk. When I joined the project, it was already behind schedule and at risk of missing a key delivery window. Second, your judgment. The biggest risk wasn't technical, it was a lack of focus. So I simplified the scope, aligned stakeholders on one clear outcome, and shortened the decision cadence so issues couldn't drift. And third, the outcome. We delivered on the revised timeline, and the system has been running without escalation since. Now it's the same experience, it's the same capability, but did you notice the difference? The second answer is way easier to understand. Because remember this, hiring managers, they're not listening for brilliance. They're listening for clarity, judgment, and stability. At senior levels, interviews are not talent competitions. They're risk assessments. And once you understand that, interviews stop feeling hard. Okay, so if you're finding this useful, I break down this kind of thinking every week in my newsletter. Short, practical insights on interviews, senior hiring decisions, and how to turn interviews into offers. There's a link in the description if you want to join. Okay, but at this point, some of you are probably thinking, but Dan, won't this just make me sound boring? Well, no. And this is the important distinction. Being boring is when you don't show judgment. Being safe is when your judgment is clear. Because senior interviewers aren't looking for excitement. They're looking for predictability under pressure and they don't want surprises. They want to know that when things get messy, and they always get messy, that you'll make the right call without drama. And that's why overly impressive answers often feel risky. They're long, they're complex, and they leave the interviewer doing too much work to really understand you. But safe answers are different. They're clear, they're structured, and they make the decision easy. And at senior levels, that clarity is credibility. And once you see this, you realize every interview question is actually just doing the same thing. It's not really asking for information, it's testing risk. So take a few common interview questions here. Because when they ask, tell me about yourself, they're actually asking, can I trust how you frame your experience without rambling or overselling? And when they ask, what's your biggest weakness? What they're actually asking is, Are you self-aware without creating excuses? And when they ask, why should we hire you? They're actually asking, can I explain this decision to somebody else in one sentence? And in every case, the executives who get hired, they do the same thing. They lead with what matters. They show judgment and they land on a clear outcome. No fluff, no performance. And once you understand the risk behind the question, the right answer becomes obvious. So here's a simple way to practice this before your next interview. And I call it the safe answer test. So after any practice answer, ask yourself 3 questions. First, could someone repeat my answer in one sentence? If not, it's too complicated. And second, did I address the real concern immediately or did I bury it in the background? If clarity comes too late, confidence drops early. And third, did my answer make the interviewer's decision easier or harder? Because if they have to work to understand you, it's not safe. And if you pass all 3, your answer is doing what senior interviewers actually want. It's reducing uncertainty. It's signaling judgment. And it's making the decision to hire you easier. And so what this really comes down to is simple. Interviews aren't hard because you're underprepared. They're hard because most people are trying to impress instead of reducing risk. And once you understand that hiring decisions are about safety and you structure your answers around risk, judgment, and outcome, interviews stop feeling like performances and start feeling predictable. And at senior levels, it's the safest hire that wins. And safety is a signal, not a skill. But here's the thing, even if you answer safely, most people will still fail because they don't control the interview. But here's the thing, answering safely is the baseline. It stops you losing. But what separates the top 1% of executives is how they control the room, how they guide the conversation and shape how they're perceived. So if you want to understand how to interview better than 99% of executives, watch this video right on screen.